Okay. We are now recording this. I don't see, does anybody see the light, like a little red bar or whatever that says that it's recording?
Yes.
You do see it? Okay.
I see it in the top left.
Good, because I don't see that. So just wanted to make sure. All right. So you people that are going to listen to this recording after the fact, thanks so much for joining us. There's a number of people on this live call, and we'll be making this available probably tomorrow morning, maybe later tonight, depending on how things go. So first of all, I just want to kind of give you an update on where things are and some things that are happening with Compassion. And right now, there we go. Trying to get it to advance. There we go. All right. So I know many of you have probably seen this map, but I think it's worth kind of reviewing it and kind of sharing with you what our structure is at this point. So at the end of last year, toward the end of last year, we actually had 5 regions, but our team, the supporter mobilization team, merged with the church team, and so now we are called Church Mobilization. And when we did that, there were 4 of us that still had our own region. So I have the Northeast, and you can see if you're watching on the screen and you have this view, it's the green states there. And then the Southeast part that is managed by Amanda Prefer. The yellow states, that's the Central region, and Amy Coddington is over those states. And then Matt Lingo has the rest of the country out in the Pacific, and well, it's really Texas all the way over, and he has the difficult task of having Alaska and Hawaii. So anyway, and you may be wondering, well, what happened to Doug West? Doug is still part of this team, and Lori Lee is another person that's part of this team, and they are both working with churches, primarily those churches that don't have maybe an advocate in them at this point. Maybe some of the new leads and opportunities that come in, that they work with the church leadership. So as it is, the 4 of us managers, Matt, Amy, Amanda, and myself, we work primarily with the supporters that are in our regions, as well as we're also working and interacting with churches as well. So one of the questions I know that has come up is, well, what's happened to the church partner reps? And those of you that aren't familiar with that term, the church partner representatives were actually supported by Doug West, and but it doesn't mean that the CPR role has gone away. And in fact, we probably need more CPRs more now than ever, and I'll explain why. But in a nutshell, these are the folks that I know on this call. There's several of you that have been a part of this role. But a CPR will have like a portfolio of churches that they will basically manage, and they will be the point of contact with those churches, and they will support those churches and things that they might need, questions they may have. So Doug was the point of contact on that in terms of getting the portfolios put together and giving that initial support to those CPRs. But then each manager in the region would then come alongside the CPRs for the individual events that would pop up. So the way it's going to be now is that your regional manager, in your case, it's me, will be the one to support you in all things CPR-ish. So, for instance, there's a CPR over in Pennsylvania who is there's just been some problems with her with the Salesforce, which is our database, and things are just kind of messed up with her accounts that she manages. And so I was working with IT last week to try to get that corrected, and it's still in process. Tom Andricks had a church, and Tom will just share this one because this is pretty incredible. I think it was through your email campaign, if that's correct, where you would send out emails. But he had a church reach out to him kind of out of the blue, and just said, our church would like to sponsor at least 10 children from African countries. We had heard President George Bush's story about how he sponsored, and we want to be involved as well. And so Tom connected with me, and we were able to send 20 child packets from African countries to that church, and they should be receiving them, Tom, I think by tomorrow. So that's a pretty exciting thing. So the church partner reps, that position is still there, and we're going to need it more than ever. And I'll explain why here in a minute. We still have event facilitators, people that really kind of facilitate the events. They are on the ground, really overseeing the volunteers and overseeing what's going on with the event. Event coordinators as well. Those are the people that secure volunteers for the various shifts that take place with concerts and festivals and things like that. Something else that I started really working on last year, when we had the new structure announced in July, I was approaching some people about being state leaders, state reps, to kind of oversee some things going on in the states, and to help have gatherings in various locations within a state. And so that is still happening, and I'll explain more of why things have been so delayed on everything. So any questions about that piece of things? Does that make sense at this point?
Rick, at this point, how many state reps do you have?
Okay. Yeah, at this point, I have, let's see, in Ohio, I have Lisa Kern. Up in Michigan, Jim Ladisky. Indiana is Julie Patterson. And then really the New England states, that's Tom Andricks. Pennsylvania, I haven't done a whole lot with supporting him yet, but Barry Lim is working in that area. And it's really more the Philly area, more the eastern side of the state on up, even into New York, more the eastern side of New York. So he's agreed to help with that. I've been in various conversations, not very many actually. It's been pretty much tabled here since I came off of Christmas vacation, and I'll kind of explain that to you here in a minute, as well as why. So I am looking for people who would be interested in being a part of that role, and it really is really being the hands and the feet and on the ground there in the states where I'm going to be supporting. So let me give you a little bit of info on that, because I think this is very, very important that in December, that's when I had Kentucky and West Virginia, DC, Maryland, and Delaware all added back to my region. So that's when we really kind of went to that, where we merged with the church team. That's when Doug was taken out as a manager of having his own region. So each region ended up getting a little bigger. So just to let you know, in the Northeast region, those green states, we have about, at this point, about 1,500 volunteers. The people that I invited to this call, just to be totally transparent, a much smaller number. I think there were probably 60 of you. So uh, you folks were invited in because I know of things that you've done in the past and your engagement and your involvement with Compassion and the roles that you've had in the past as well. And I want to make sure that you are informed and you know the latest, and that you will really kind of have an understanding of these resources. And to be honest, I would also love to enlist your help and support with what's going on within our region. So each of the regions is about that similar size. We are in the process of kind of cleaning up some of the people that are on our lists within the region. So, when you talk about 1,500 people, there's probably many of those people. I mean, honestly, they're like, who is this guy who's contacting me, this Rick Schloop? So there's probably a little bit of confusion, like, okay, I'm getting emails from him now, and I really haven't been involved. There's things that they've done in the past with Compassion that kind of shows that, okay, they're volunteering. And really the reason that they put them in our different regions is just so we can be available to support them if they want to move further in their advocacy. I know there are some people that need to be brought in to the people that I work with directly, and there's probably some people that would prefer to not have all this information, like, oh, what's the Compassion journey? Why is he sending me information about this? So there is going to still be some cleanup going on with our database, just so you know that it's still a little bit in process, but we are getting there and making great strides. Questions on that before I go to the next slide? Okay. Well, we have some great resources that are now available to us for the very first time. Ever. Since I've been with Compassion, and I've been on staff for 11 and a half years. I was a volunteer advocate for 8 years before that. And we've never really had resources quite like this for smaller churches, for advocates to tap into. And it's pretty incredible. So each of the managers, and I'm going to start with the Compassion journey, because this one's really, it's upon us. Heavily. We have a lot of open dates available. They're actually, I just learned today that they are actually making 2 more of these crates, 2 more sets of the crates, because they come in 2 of these boxes, as you can see there on the screen. Each Compassion journey has 2 of those. So they're making 2 more sets. So we're going to have a Compassion journey 3 and 4. We currently have 2. So anyway, one of the dates that I was given was early February, and it was Super Bowl Sunday weekend. Not an easy time for a church to say, yeah, we would love to have that. Number one, in the Northeast with winter weather, that plays a factor. Obviously, with Super Bowl and all that going on, sometimes that makes that a tough weekend. So I ended up really kind of talking to Compassion about having it in my town where I live. Now, understand, the town where I live is 4,500 people, very small. This typically is something that would be set up in a town, in a city of 50,000 plus, because Compassion does do some Facebook marketing out to the community, and they do expect a pretty good response from those people coming to the Compassion journey. We didn't have that population base here. I did set up having Compassion Sundays, or having at least a Compassion presentation at multiple churches, because I wanted to do everything we could to kind of maximize the time it was here. So this is actually where it was set up. It was set up in a youth center in the basketball court. And these guys actually are packing it up. It was getting ready to be shipped out. I actually had it here in Greenfield, Ohio, from February 1st through the 7th. So that's really unique. Typically, it's a Friday night, all day Saturday. and then Sunday after church, like the Sunday afternoon, is the typical timeline for having the compassion journey there. The really and the thing that was really beneficial to me is I got to be there from receiving the crate, unpacking the crate, setting up the journey, managing extra days outside of the weekend, because Dave Sagert and actually Glenn Stevenson, who are both on this call, Dave was the event facilitator for it. Glenn was also an event facilitator supporting what Dave was doing. So they were here to really kind of manage things during the weekend. But then last week, on Monday through Thursday, I had this open to the public during the evening. And so I had to come up with my own volunteers, and Compassion was not recruiting them at that point. So it was interesting. We had it open to the public for about a total of 30 hours, and we ended up with about 308 people going through. Last week alone in the evening, that's when we had 200 of the 308 about go through, and they were mostly from the community where I live. So lots of churches involved. This is one of the families. So the compassion journey is, there's a check-in station, and once they start going through, each participant's wearing a headset. You have an iPod that we furnish, and then they experience the story of Kevin, a real live person who went through Compassion's program, but he shares his life story. And so there's the video that people watch, and they go to 6 different stations to where they learn about, Kevin not eating for a couple days at a time, and what that was like. And then there's discussion questions after each station. So it goes from hunger, and it talks about security. So you actually go inside of a hut, and you can get on the floor. You can lay on the mats that are laying there. There's a mosquito net. So there's some experiential things. People can handle the things on the tables. And then after that, they go to a station called Burdens. And it really is talking about, the burdens that Kevin was going through, but also it helps put the participants in the shoes of people growing up in extreme poverty. And Kevin lost his mother to cancer, and what that was like. I mean, Kevin's 10 years old, and he feels the burden, the responsibility of raising his siblings. He talks about his younger sister, and at 10, he's feeling the weight of that. There's a station where you share, or I'm sorry, where you pray, and then there's a station called I Care, and so you end up putting your name on a sticker. And if any of you were ever a part of the walk with Compassion, they also had I know Julie Patterson certainly was, but she was a walk chair, but you put your name on that, and you put this sticker up on that big backdrop wall display. So incredible. I mean, just to see this by the end, and I know Dave and Glenn, you guys were both there early on when there were 3 stickers on this. So now you see all those that are all over that display, which is pretty incredible. And then, didn't want to move that quickly. After this station is the station where you hear the rest of the story. So you hear what happened to Kevin, what he's doing now. And then after that station, you go to the World Impact Room, and kind of like the Compassion Experience, Kevin does encourage people to sponsor a child after station 6, and then they go to the World Impact Room, and that's where the child packets are, and people have an opportunity to sponsor a child there. Compassion had tested this out, piloted it, a couple churches, I think, in the South last fall, and the Compassion journey, on average, through just those couple of events, would bring in about 20 sponsorships from the community. And then the Compassion Journey team also asked that the hosting church would have a Compassion Sunday. And typically, a church that's also doing the journey, they realize about 20 sponsorships with the Compassion Sunday. So the goal for an entire weekend with the Compassion Journey is 40 sponsorships. I just saw the number, and we're at 36 with this event. So we had to do a little extra work to get the word out. Actually, I think I've done 4 church presentations, and I just got another one that I'm doing next week, and it's all tied to the journey being here. So again, it's a very small town, very small churches, but the impact was huge. And there's incredible stories of how it impacted, a mom whose husband had passed away from ALS, was with her 2 daughters, and she was just having these incredible discussions with her daughters. And I talked to them afterward, and she just really wants her daughters to know that they can make an impact in somebody else's lives. And here they are, probably still dealing with their own personal grief of losing a husband and a dad. And I don't know how long ago that was. That's beside the point. But the grief had to still be there, and they were still engaging with Kevin's story, and they came away with this, what can we do to make an impact? And they weren't able to sponsor a child, but they're like, we can donate some money. We can, have a lemonade stand or something and make a difference in somebody's life. So really pretty cool stuff happening with this. So I bring all this up because typically the Compassion Journey fits really well, again, in communities that are 50,000 and above. And that could be outlining area as well, not just right in the corporation limits or anything like that. So if you have a church that might be interested, I know Julie's been working with her church and trying to see if they could take some May dates that are available. I have several dates that are available with the journey, and now that they've added some more journey crates and resources, we actually have a lot more flexibility with dates. So even if you have a church, maybe it's your church, maybe it's another church near you that you think would be a good fit for this, let's talk about it. The most pressing need and some open dates are the March 22nd, 23rd, 24th weekend. I also have April 5th through 7th, but I have a church in York, Pennsylvania that is going to host the Compassion Journey, and they're having a Compassion Sunday. And they are focusing specifically on child development centers in a specific area of the Dominican Republic. So the Compassion Sunday is going to have just children from a couple centers in a specific part of the Dominican Republic. So pretty exciting with that. And they've never done anything with compassion. So ideally, if the church could be in the 250 to 500 range of attendance, that seems to be a good fit. It's not a deal breaker if it's not, but that's a good number. And again, the community, it doesn't have to be the most heavily populated area, but certainly a good populated area, at least strong enough to invite people in. The Compassion, this puts a little bit of it into perspective with how Compassion treated Greenfield, Ohio. Typically, their Facebook marketing, and they know exactly how to do it, and they pay for ads on Facebook, and they typically go 15 miles out from the church location. Greenfield, they had to go 100 miles out to to get to get people to respond. So because of that, we were going to have it here a couple weekends, and they said there's just not enough people. So they ended up having it just one weekend, but then we continued it all during last week. And then I shipped it out Friday morning to a church in Arkansas. And I know Julie was working with her church on the May 17th to 19th dates. I have June dates available. So if there are any churches, and I could certainly be engaged in conversations that you know of, that you work with, that might be interested in this, it is an incredible experience for people to go through. Primarily what the church needs to provide is about 1,200 square feet of space. So we used a gymnasium, and that worked really well. It was at a youth center, which was different than using a church. We had our check-in down a hallway, so it was in a little different spot, but it kind of fed perfectly right into the gym area where we had all the stations. So the flow worked really well, but we need that space. We also asked the church to certainly promote it with their own congregation, and also to provide as many volunteers as possible. Compassion will recruit volunteers, and but we also do ask the church to help with that, and especially with the setup and the tear down. And I know the setup for us took about 2.5 hours. The tear down was much quicker. But anyway, we asked the church to provide for that. So does anybody have any questions about the Compassion Journey?
Yeah, Rick, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's Carol.
Yep. Hi, Carol.
Hey, is the Compassion Journey taking the place of the Compassion Experience?
No. Good question. The Compassion Experience, it is primarily being utilized by the really large churches because of, that is just a major resource. And we did cut back on the amount of dates that it's on the road, just because it is a great expense to Compassion to have that out on the road. So a lot more selective on where it goes. But really, the Compassion Journey is a response to the smaller churches. 92% of all the churches are under 500, many of them well under 500. So we wanted to have a resource that really would serve them well, and was really almost, I guess, kind of a response to the Compassion Experience, because the Compassion Experience, what the smaller churches, they were just not going to be able to host it. And so this gives those smaller churches a great resource.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Rick, Tom here. If who is typically the lead for organizing, getting the volunteers coordinated and all that?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so typically it'll be somebody at the hosting church. So for instance, the youth pastor at the church in York, Pennsylvania is kind of running point for them. And so I've been working with her just on the Compassion end of things, supporting her and helping her, figure out where kids are available. And her church is actually going to do a 3-day trip, Compassion trip, to the Dominican Republic. They're actually doing another thing, going to be working with some other ministries, but they're going to include Compassion as part of it. So they hope to visit their children in that part of the Dominican Republic. So she is the point person. And so what happens is we have, it's actually the same team that operates the Compassion Experience, the trucks. That team, and for our region, it's Jill Durad, if that name rings a bell for anybody, but she will be she's the point person to kind of go through the logistical piece of things, and the Compassion support piece of things with the Compassion Journey. And she will lay out everything with the point person at the church. and Compassion will have somebody on site at every location. So for instance, here in Greenfield, it was Dave and Glenn. They were here the entire weekend. So they were the ones that really, trained the volunteers, took care of all of that piece of it, and really did pretty much anything and everything that was needed to help the weekend go smoothly. So we also have other folks that Compassion will put in place. We have what are called Go Reps. And there was a Go Rep that was actually at a church, I think in Utah, where the journey was the same weekend we had this one in Greenfield. The other crates were at a church in Utah, and there was one of the Compassion Go Reps there who really oversaw everything the entire weekend. But still, we do need a point person, somebody to kind of communicate with and to really kind of enlist the support of the church. Any other questions about this? We also have, and you may have seen the video, we have a great 1 minute 7-second video that really kind of showcases the Compassion journey. It was taken actually when it was piloted back in the fall, so it's a pretty effective video, and we have tons of pictures and other resources. We have a website, a web page that really kind of lays out the Compassion journey. It is a great opportunity for the church to invite the community in to their building and to interact with them. How the Compassion experience kind of does the same thing, obviously with a lot more people. Typically, the Compassion journey really does bring people in from lots of places. So for instance, with the Facebook marketing that took place here, and I'm in Southern Ohio. So if you're familiar, those of you not from here, with Ohio, Greenfield is a little town about 45 miles south, a little bit southwest, I guess, of Columbus. And we had people come from several suburbs in Columbus. We had people come from north of Columbus. People came from Dayton and Xenia, which is another hour west of here. So that marketing brought people in from all over that area, which was really surprising, because Greenfield is literally just about, as Dave and Glenn could attest, pretty much out in a cornfield. So yeah, we had pretty good response from those outlying areas. Okay, let me continue on. Another thing that we have is, and you may be familiar with this, and again, I'll reference Julie Patterson. Julie, and I don't know if you want to share anything about this, but you were the one person, I think, in our that I worked with last year who actually used this with a church last summer. And I didn't ask you beforehand about sharing anything, but Julie, is there anything you can share about this and how that went before I?
Well, it was an awesome response. The kids were very engaged with it, and then adult leaders and everyone was very happy with it. And I'm trying to remember, Rick, help me, since we didn't talk about this beforehand, how many so we did the water and sanitation, and I want to say, were they able to, something like 9, enough for like 9 of the water for life, something like that, maybe more. I can't remember now. We exceeded our goal for sure.
Yes. Yep.
And they made a huge deal out of it at the the last day of VBS. And actually what they did was they put buckets up there, and they actually had to go out and buy somebody had to go out and buy more buckets before the
Hmm.
the ending ceremony, because there was so much raised. And they were very excited about it, that they right on the spot asked me to do something for this next year. And I can't remember, but if they wanted to do I think the next or something. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll be doing something again for the VBS this year as well. So they're making it, that is the missional part of their VBS.
Yeah, and that's a great point about it, and that it is that this is the missional component. So most VBS curriculums, whether it's group, whether your church or a church uses the group resources, or youth specialties, or there's lots of other things out there. But the mission, there's typically always a missional component to the VBS. And so this is not meant to replace VBS. There's already great VBS resources. Compassion did not feel a need to create VBS resources, but we wanted to provide a booster, or a mission, the missional piece of VBS, or a summer camp booster that could be the church's missional response, or the missional piece during a VBS or a summer camp. So anyway, it's a great resource. Last year, it was actually, that's when it was just kind of tested out, piloted. Julie said, yes, I'll do it. And now there's, again, Compassion learns a lot from things like that. And so we kind of collected a lot of the data and information and feedback from people. So it's a great resource. And it does focus on, there's 5 different mission critical priorities, and they're listed there. Water and sanitation, which Julie's already referenced. And then there's church mobilization, hunger and nutrition, compassion, survival, and youth development. So you could kind of pick any one of those 5, and that could be the focus. So there are great resources. I actually, there's a director's guide, and if you could see my video right now, I'm holding up the director's guide. So there's great resources that are available to support. I mean, this is like lesson plans that really lays easy to follow things, or a plan that would help share and focus on water and sanitation, some activities for the kids to do, hunger, nutrition, survival, or any of the other lists there on the priorities. So great resources are available with that. So if you have a church, and I share this with you now because if you have a church that's interested in VBS and how can Compassion be included in that, we have great resources that really could help you supplement what you might be able to provide to the church. So just let me know and I can get those things to you. Okay, so we have the Compassion Journey, we have the missional VBS component.
Rick, I got one question.
Yes.
Both on the Compassion Journey and the VBS booster, does Compassion go to churches and recruit on their own, or are these pretty much on our plate to try?
Yeah, that's excellent. And that kind of brings me back. Tom, you did a great segue there into what I needed to talk about, that I kind of referenced earlier about why things are, why I've been kind of silent. And it's one of the things you just brought up is, who is reaching out, or where does Compassion do this? Yes, I actually have a stack of churches that have expressed interest in the VBS booster. So today I actually spent some time getting organized on the list of churches that have already reached out to Compassion. So Compassion did, there was actually a children's pastors, children pastors conference in Florida held in January. And Compassion was there and shared about our VBS booster. And so some of those pastors then contacted Compassion and said, I'm interested. So now those have been passed on to the regional manager based on the region that we have. So I do have those kind of organized right now. And my plan was to reach out to those children's pastors and just say, okay, we're here to support you in this and to help you, and then see where that goes. And then I would love to be able to reach out to you people on this call and say, hey, Heidi, there's this church in Indiana that really is interested in exploring, using Compassion's resources for their VBS, for their missional component. Would you be willing, to reach out to them and touch base? I mean, I've already made contact with them. They definitely want to do it. They just need somebody to help them. So that's one piece of it. So Tom, yes and yes. Yes, Compassion has promoted. Yes, you can promote it as well. I mean, it's both ways works. And yes, I do have some leads that have already come in. So here's what I have going on, and this might be a good time just to let you know what all is happening. So we have the Compassion Journey, and we have dates that are open for that to be booked with churches. It's a great resource for churches. It's incredible. Then we have the VBS Booster, which I have some church leads that they are reaching out to Compassion and saying, yes, we want to know more about this resource. And then I also am getting Compassion Sunday details on a regular basis from the Global Ministry Center, where they're saying, there's these churches, and I'll get these various churches that are ordering planning guides, or individuals are ordering planning guides. And these are individuals maybe I haven't ever touched base with before. And I'm give a shout out to Bob Moody, who is on this call. And Bob, I do apologize that I just invited you, I think this morning, but I'm thrilled that you're here. But Bob was one that I found out that he was going to have a Compassion Sunday. And I just reached out to him and just to say, hey, is there anything that I can do to help? And that's really what we want to do. We really want to be the best in terms of customer service, and to give people that opportunity for them to know that we're here to support you. Let us know how we can help you. So for example, and Bob, if you don't mind me sharing, because I think this is a great example of how this works. So Bob has a church, or his church is having a Compassion Sunday. Found out that through Bob that there's a real heart for Bolivia, and Bob, if I'm correct in remembering this off the top of my head, it's BO 0714.
Your memory's better than
but that particular child development center, that's what really resonates with the church. And so I had my specialist put a hold on kids from that particular child development center, and there were like 16 children available that we went ahead and put on hold. And so that Compassion Sunday, which I don't think is until May 5th, they're going to have children from BO 0714. So, which is really exciting, because that fits the vision of the church. And we're coming alongside and providing, something that's really going to support them and where their heart already is. So there are a lot of those type of opportunities that are coming my way now, with Compassion Sundays too. Some churches have already registered Compassion Sundays, and these are churches I've never been able to work with in the past. They've been served by our mass segments area, for the lack of a better way to say it. And now for the first time, they're saying we want church mobilization, which is our team, to reach out to those churches and just say, hey, we're here. We're a real live person. You're not getting an automated call. We just want to offer our help if there's anything you need. We can customize the packets. We have these other resources, and maybe the Compassion Journey might end up being a good fit at some of those churches. There could be and I have a couple other things I'm going to be sharing here as well, but there's other things we could start offering those churches, and the response has been absolutely incredible thus far. I had a lady that I just connected with one of these calls, and I ended up praying with her. Her pastor ended up saying no. She had gotten the planning guide, and she really wanted to approach her pastor about doing a Compassion Sunday. And she also wanted to host a Compassion Journey there. And she just emailed me yesterday and said, my pastor said no. And I could hear the dejection in her email. But I had the opportunity to pray for her. So just some neat stuff happening now. And for the first time, I feel like our team is getting these opportunities to really come alongside the church and support the church and all smaller churches within our region.
Rick, with the Compassion Journey and the VBS Booster in particular, are there promotional materials that we could have so when we contact with other pastors and churches, something to go through with them?
Yes.
Possibly?
Yes. Absolutely. And I'm pretty convinced that when I send out an email filled with tons of information, it's just overwhelming. It's way too much info to share. So that's really why I wanted to have this call first, to at least put some words behind it and to see, so we could be face to face this way. And just also to let you know that these exist, but I will gladly send you various pieces of great promotional material. And to be honest, some of the Compassion Journey stuff, when I had it in Greenfield, there wasn't even a news release written yet. It still is a work in progress. I had to write my own news release, which is fine, but it just it's a good example that things are getting better, but it's not like every single piece, every single T has been crossed and every I's dotted on all this yet. So we really are at the forefront of it, but things are happening because there's lots of churches that are engaging with compassion by ordering planning guides, planning Compassion Sundays, and having other things happening. I'll give you another example. There was a Compassion Sunday that this couple is doing over in Reading, Pennsylvania, and it's this coming Sunday. And they called me on Saturday and said, "Yeah, we heard your voicemail message from before, and we have a bunch of questions we'd like to ask you." And so they said that they would put them all, we talked, and I said, "Can you just list them in an email and I'll go through them and get you all the answers?" So there's lots of those kind of things happening. And I think what that means is it's going to lead to a lot of opportunities to pass things on to some of you folks that are on this Zoom call. Because you're the people that have been the most engaged with compassion. And you're the people with all the experience and really the understanding of how compassion works. And so anyway, I'm really kind of trying to enlist your help with this. It's an exciting time. I really honestly feel that things are exploding in terms of what God is doing with this ministry. It's, I keep thinking Wes Stafford had that vision, the 2020 vision of 4 million children being sponsored. And I know we're at 2 million, but he had that vision of 4 million by 2020. 2020 is next year, but it seems like, it just, every day is just filled with opportunities that are coming, and it's like people are awakening to this. And it's the perfect storm because we're coming along with these resources that really are a great thing to add and provide for churches. So on this, I just listed some things here. Step into my shoes. We've had this resource, for the Philippines and Uganda. The Philippines is the newest one, and it has a virtual reality piece. It's a great family resource. I've talked a lot about having gatherings and alumni speakers, and that almost. And we had a number of gatherings in Ohio actually in the fall, and kind of backed off of that almost because of the onslaught of all these other calls and leads and things that are coming my way right now. So, and honestly, I haven't had a great deal of time to get organized with everything. And a lot of it had to do because I had the Compassion Journey here. So with that really kind of took precedence over some other things because I needed to be in with both feet on it. But now that's in the rearview mirror. And so it's kind of full speed ahead. And also another resource that's coming soon that is being designed specifically for us. And when I say us, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about all of us. So all of you on this call as well. And that's a virtual reality resource. We actually shot the video for this last December. I think it was in Brazil. And so this is still being created, but we're going to be able to offer churches a VR resource. I don't have the details of it. I was initially told that it would be available for us to start offering it to churches starting in April. So we'll see if that timeline still works, but the VR resource is something that our team is going to be able to offer to a church. So let's say the church is maybe too small for the Compassion Journey. Well, we could say, but we have this virtual reality resource that might be a good alternative. Or it could be that Step Into My Shoes is a good fit for the church. Or maybe the church wants to get involved just with their VBS to start with, and so we can provide the VBS booster. Lots of great things available. We're almost to 8:30. I want to honor your time. Let me move ahead here kind of quickly. And we also have the small group studies, and I think most of you are familiar with When Compassion Meets Action, but it's the John Ortberg and Jimmy Miato small group study. It's incredible. If you have a church that's interested in that, just reach out to me. So any of this stuff that you might need, anything you want to talk through, please let me know. And I'd love to have that conversation with you. We also have a resource that I think probably a lot of people don't know about. It's called The Stories We Tell. It's really for women's groups, but it's incredible. There's a participant guide that comes with it. There's a leader's guide that comes with it. So if you're leading a group, or of somebody that's maybe there's a women's ministry within the church and they want to do this study together, we have the resources, and these resources are pretty low cost for Compassion. We created these things ourselves, but the kind of the tagline on the leader guide says, inviting us to give God the pen that writes the plot lines of our lives. So it's a great resource for women's groups. So small group studies, those are available as well. Step Into My Shoes, the great family resource too. Questions?
I just have a question. When, there's concerts and they're looking for helpers to come to the concerts to deal with child packets, I always get the announcements like really too late. It's like it's next week and I just can't do it next week.
Yeah, that would be the event volunteer program team. And I do know just my experience with a lot of that. sometimes the event details come late. Maybe the person that Compassion is working with. Oops, let me go back to my question slide. The person that is that's working with maybe the event leader, or if it's a concert, maybe the at the venue, wherever it's going to be. Sometimes those details come kind of last minute, which creates real pressure on getting volunteer coverage. Because yeah, and that is one thing that we really, and I'll give you an example. The Compassion Journey being here in Greenfield, we didn't get those volunteer slots up until probably, I think it was within a week of when it was actually happening.
Like 10 days.
10 days?
I think it was like days. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And that is
Donna,
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not
Donna,
ideal.
why don't you share about that then? You could probably answer it better than I can.
Yeah, it's just like you said, Rick. The volunteer coordinators, we can't send anything out until it's set up in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just multiple layers to that. There's the artist relationships, and then the artist manager has to get the information to Compassion. It needs to get into Salesforce, and then it needs to get to so there's lots of different steps to go through. Generally, I can only speak for myself, and there is a brand new process just got out in February for recruiting volunteers. So my advice also would, you're going to sign up on your own. A lot of times people would send me emails directly and I would sign them up manually, but we're really trying to get them to sign up on their own. To do that, you go into your account in the Compassion website. So I'm just encouraging people that want to volunteer to sign into their account maybe just once a month and look for events on your own, because there's a different algorithm now as far as sending out emails to sponsors and advocates. And I can't always guarantee that if an event is near you that you would actually get an email about it. So you really need to be proactive and sign into your account. And maybe I'm suggesting maybe just once a month and seeing if there are concerts in your area. And you can set up the parameter in your account as far as how far out to look. You can look in a 25-mile radius, a 50-mile radius, a 75-mile radius, a 100-mile radius from where you live. And if you have any questions, you can call me or email me.
Yeah. Great. Thank
Back
you.
to you, Rick.
So, yeah, so a lot of it is, the delay getting things posted is, like Donna described, it is a process. And sometimes that information isn't available. And we would love to have it available sooner, but sometimes it's just not going to happen. I know with the volunteer slots for the Compassion Journey here, that was probably that probably was my fault that it was delayed, just because of getting that information set up and ready to go. It all seemed like there were just way too many details that had to be done. And so that whole piece of it was a little bit wonky. But yeah, ideally that those things will be in there in a more timely manner for all the volunteers. So.
Okay.
Rick, this is Bob.
Yes, Bob.
I signed up for a Casting Crowns concert, and I did online, and it was probably a month's notice, but the online was very quick.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke.
I said I just signed up for a Casting Crowns, and I got probably a month's notice, and I did it online, and it was really quick to sign up.
Okay, great. So sometimes it works really well.
And that is the aim.
Yes, yeah, that is awesome. So just for everybody's information, Donna is the volunteer coordinator for the state of Ohio. So she secures that volunteer coverage and appeals for the coverage. And so the compassion staff person that she works directly with is Alan Hinkle.
Mhm.
So in that particular realm. So I guess does anybody else have was somebody going to ask a
Yeah,
question?
Rick, this is Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
I was just going to ask, when we get questions at different venues, like you're familiar at the Compassion Journey, just we had a woman who could not contribute, could not sponsor a child, but she was interested in the survival program.
Yeah.
So that's something that we don't really promote much, and I don't personally know a whole lot about how someone gets involved at contributing to that, or if they just want to contribute a small monthly amount to the critical needs.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what we're doing with the workplace giving. And they don't want to sponsor a child, which is primarily what we're doing at a lot of these events. How do they go about it? Are you still the guy to ask about these questions? Or who do we go to for more information on that?
Yes, I am the person to ask. So I can get you, and we are in a little bit of a different space right now. So, and I'll give you an example, Bite Back, the malaria campaign. Right now, all of those resources the website's been down, the biteback.net, because all of that is being reworked. So we're really at a waiting point in that particular area. Compassion Water of Life. Again, that's something where, pardon the pun, but we've really saturated the field with a lot of water of life. I mean, the response with that was incredible because everybody needs water. And it was really easy for people to wrap their minds around, oh, I could buy this water system and it'll really help. And I know we had the gathering in Ohio where Glenn was going to, really kind of share about the Compassion Water of Life. And Compassion was kind of like, let's slow down a little bit on that just because we're kind of reworking some things. So now we have the WASH initiative that includes the water system, but there's a lot more other pieces of it, like hygiene, sanitation, and some of those type of things. So because of that, and I share all that, it's not real simple. So I am your point of contact. So if you're like, I need info about survival, I can get that for you. And I can say, this is the latest, because some things are in process right now. They are redoing some of the resources. Some of the stuff was outdated. So they remove the stuff that's outdated to get you the very best updated information. So I have all that kind of stuff, and it's nothing that I can just automatically send out at this point, just because each area is in the works, so to speak. We're at a very interesting time at Compassion. So let me know if you need like donation forms and things like that. I will work with Candy directly about, if you need a PDF of a donation form for a particular fund and we can get the thing source coded correctly. That's where Candy can really support that. So Candy is my go-to person at the Global Ministry Center, and she's here to serve all of you as well. So feel free to reach out to me. But Candy and I are a team, and we'll be working together on things. And she also supports other areas as well, and other regions. So does that help, Dave?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'll probably be sending you a separate email about some things
Please
that
do.
you probably should include in festival packs and concert packs.
Yep, please do. Send that stuff to me, and I will gladly work on that and get an answer for you.
Thank you.
So let some of this marinate with you. There was quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know we have state leaders and there's various roles with Compassion as well. I would like to have somebody that would oversee prayer for our region, maybe do that by states even. Dream. It feels like that the floodgates have opened, and it's just, we're just experiencing incredible growth. We want to honor people. We want to honor churches. Most importantly, we want to honor God with the work of our hands. So I'm excited that you're in this with me, and we're all in this together. We're one team, one family in this Northeast region, even though it seems a little weird that Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio would be considered Northeast, but that's just what they named us. So, but anyway, I think we have great opportunity, and we're going to be engaging lots and lots and lots of churches. I have some incredible stuff that's going on that I'll be sharing with all of you as I send updates and things. So anyway, as stuff comes to me, let me know, maybe after this call, later this week or whatever's best for you. If you have some ideas how you could see yourself kind of helping and or getting more involved in it, or getting involved in a different way, please let me know. And I may be in touch with, I have a stack. I got organized today with my stack of planning guide calls, my stack of VBS calls, my stack of Compassion Sunday opportunities that are there as well. And I have some other things I didn't get to, but I think you get the picture.
Yes.
There's lots of things happening, and I would love to be able to say, hey, Tom Andrix, I got these 3 churches that are interested in doing this, and they're in your area. Would you be willing to follow up with them? And I can get you all the details on it. And I just got the thumbs up from Tom. So there's going to be a lot of that opportunity. And you people that I've already approached about state leadership and that type of thing, I will be in touch. Things are getting a little bit organized. I'm feeling better from that point, but I will be back in touch with you. And if any of you on this calls may be interested in exploring some of those other options in terms of serving, I'd love to have that discussion with you. So anybody have one last final question? If not, we'll close. Okay. Well, let me just say a word of prayer, and then we'll close. But thank you all so much for being here, and for being a part of this, and for making an impact on so many lives through this ministry. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you. You are at work, and your Spirit is doing just amazing things in people's lives, and I know I see things happening that is just amazing, and I know it's you. And God, I pray that we would be people that just really lean on you entirely and depend on you and seek you out day by day by day, minute by minute by minute. Lord, I thank you for what you're doing with this ministry, and that you've called us to this. And I thank you for each person here on this call, and the blessing that they are, and the amazing kingdom people that they are. And I just thank you for them. Thank you, Lord, for this time that we can just share. And I could talk a whole lot about all this stuff that's happening. And I thank you for these partners in ministry. And Lord, we give you all the glory and the praise and the honor, always and forever. We love you, Lord. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks to each of you.
Appreciate it, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.